this video, I would like to discuss and then demonstrate the three-way hip stretch with a strap. This stretch is intended to get the hip joint moving a little better. It would be beneficial for many different people who have hip pain, and the idea is that it mobilizes the hip and enables better biomechanical movement in all the directions that the hip does move. To do this stretch, and it's important to note that this stretch does not target any particular muscle, rather it's directed and targets the joint capsule, the leathery bag that surrounds the hip joint itself. In order to do this stretch, you need some sort of solid anchor point. In this case, I'm going to use the weight rack here, but you could also just as easily use a door and just jam the strap in the door. You also need some sort of web belt or strap, and you don't want it to be flexible. So you want to have your strap. The width doesn't matter all that much, but you want to make sure that it's not a stretchy material. You don't want to use TheraBand or any kind of resistance band for this. You want to use something that does not stretch. You can also use some sort of padding. In this case, I have a folded up pillowcase in order to pad it if you need to do that. In order to do this stretch, and the other thing you would need, if necessary, or if you feel like you do, is to make sure that you're very stable and safe when you do this stretch. So I don't have an extra handhold here, but in a lot of cases I would recommend that you do that, and so that you can relax a little bit more and just make the stretch more effective that way. So to execute the stretch, you anchor the strap approximately at hip height, and then very carefully step into the strap and get the strap as close to your hip joint as possible. So I'm going to put it up there, and then we're going to stretch it in three different directions. We're going to go to the side, we're going to go to the front, and to the rear. I'll demonstrate each of those. Okay, so going to the side, it looks like this, where you have the strap there, and then the key to this whole movement in each direction is to have stability, obviously, but then to relax the leg that you're targeting as much as possible. Also, you can do this as a static stretch where you would just lean away and load the hip, and it just does a gentle stretch in the lateral direction now for my right hip. But I think there's more benefit to doing it as an oscillation, where you would load it for a second or two, put the stretch on, and then relax, and then load it again and relax. Again, my right foot is in contact with the floor, but I'm trying to put most of my weight on the left side so that the strap can induce movement and my muscles are activated as little as possible on the right side, because I just wanted everything to relax and let that hip joint move just a little bit. You probably won't feel any actual movement, but rest assured that if you are loading it up there and you feel the pressure on the inside of the thigh, in this case, you are getting a little bit of movement at the hip. So that's the one to the side. And then the one to the front, you would just spin so that the strap is now still very close to the hip joint. You want it right essentially underneath your butt cheek. And then again, load mostly on the other side, and then it's just a matter of leaning back, having a handhold if you need to for stability. And then again, I would load up by leaning back into it, and then relax, load up, lean back into it, relax. Again, 30 is a good number to start with, just as a reference number to get the number of oscillations like that. Next, we go to the third of the three directions, which is to put the strap and the padding in front. And so now that strap is going to be in front of the hip joint, and as I lean forward, again, most of the weight on the left side here for the right hip, and I'm going to lean forward with that right leg relaxed, and that's going to drive the hip just a little bit to the rear, relax, and again like that. Obviously, if you've had hip surgery where there was an incision and an incision from a given direction, you wouldn't want to do this stretch in the direction of that incision. So do not violate any post-operative protocol, certainly with the hip. But for those who have not had surgery, the hip joint capsule is very strong, and loading it in this fashion is very safe, and it's an effective way to mobilize the hip and get it moving better.